Lovely afternoon to you that are watching us here on Litovia Television. Of course, you are watching Check In TV show with me, Blessings KN. Anything that is human is mentionable, and anything that is mentionable can be more manageable. When we talk about our feelings, they become less overwhelming, less upsetting, and less scary. Those are the words of Fred Rogers. All right. If the talks about mental health was on the lips of every Zambian every day, would not have mental health issues increasing at a supersonic speed, more especially amongst the youths. This is the reason why today we are discussing the topic on the challenges in enhancing mental health awareness. And of course, as always, I do not talk about such topics alone. This is why I am joined by Dr. Anita Malambo from Chenama Hills Hospital. Doctor, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I know you've been attending to a number of patients, yeah, and obviously you are tired, but I really appreciate your coming through to the show.
No problem. It's
Yeah.
a pleasure.
Sure. Okay, so I would like to just have maybe an understanding of what mental health is
Uh,
from, health perspective and from a health profession, of course.
well, I would describe mental health as a state of well-being, and that's like physically, emotionally, and also mentally itself. Yeah, so it's a
Let
that are not related to mental health can present in such a way as long as the brain is affected. So take, for instance, like conditions whereby the patient has got, a person has got maybe other conditions like liver disease and whatnot, and then it later on affects the brain when it gets worse. As long as it affects the brain, a person is able to see those symptoms or signs that you have explained. But whereas for mental health, basically, it's not related to, it's not necessarily related to other physical conditions, yes, or drug-related. So basically, for you to come up with a diagnosis about mental health, you would have to take a thorough history to rule out all other physical illnesses.
Sure.
Yeah.
What is the level of mental health awareness in Zambia?
Currently, I would say it's limited. If I would put it as a percentage, I would say maybe almost 20 to 30%, because people are still getting educated about mental health. Yes, so right now I would say the level that we're at is quite limited.
How do you carry out your sensitization programs to, enable the public to have knowledge about mental health? Is it when they visit the facility, or do you have programs that you roll out where maybe you go out into the communities trying to explain what mental health really is?
Yeah, well, we do it on social media platforms. And then we also do it, like we do have people from our institution that do outreaches. And then also when a patient comes to our facility and maybe is being discharged and they have their relatives around, we do try to educate the relatives in the hopes that when they do go out into their community, they're able to tell people out there as well.
Great.
Yeah.
How is the social stigma of mental health treatment and conditions one of the biggest challenges in our mental health awareness?
Well, first of all, if we describe what stigma is, that's the beliefs and attitudes that people have towards mental health. Then that's the label or the maybe the blemish they put towards mental health. Then this can lead to the stigma can later lead to discrimination. So discrimination are the behaviors towards the beliefs and the attitudes that they have towards mental health, which later on can worsen the condition of the person that has got a mental health illness or condition. So this can basically happen in our schools, it can happen in our churches, it can happen in our homes, which can lead to bullying, going to church and whatnot. So how social stigma affects mental health awareness is that, well, this stigma can happen in three ways. It can be personal stigma, where the person themselves is going to internalize that condition, like where they feel there's something wrong with me, and therefore I cannot associate with people around me. Then it can be public stigma, where it's how the people around view the person with a mental condition. Then it can also be institutional, where like it can be where the person works, policy and whatnot, how they view people with mental health conditions. So how this affects mental health awareness is that the person gets reluctant to assess mental health facilities. So basically, they turn to internalize that, and therefore it becomes worse. Or if they do assess mental health care and whatnot, there's what we call insight of the condition. So if the person has got self-stigma, they will deny the fact that they have that mental condition. Or if they start to receive treatment, there's that labeling that comes around. Like, let's say if someone has visited China Hills, they basically automatically think the person is mad or something like that. So this in turn, like if the person decided to receive treatment, they might decide to stop treatment because they do not want to continue receiving stigma from the people around them. And also because also they also feel nothing is wrong with me. So, yeah.
I like the fact that you brought in the aspect, actually, stigma. Yeah, yeah, because of the social aspect. But you mentioned something that is very interesting to me. If someone hears of China, of course, the culture that we have, they just think of mad people. And the stigma that is associated with the institution is not only, directed at the institution, but also the health workers.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is why I'm having this question now. What common challenges do you face as health professions in enhancing mental health awareness?
First of all, one of them is the aggression towards healthcare workers, like mental, in the mental institutions. So basically, this normally happens when the patient presents to the institution the first time, because this is when they lack a lot of insight. They do not know why they are being brought to the institution. They feel everything is okay with them. And this is in the state where they're just from, if it's abusing substances and whatnot, they're still very aggressive. So one of the challenges is that, and then the other thing that's faced is stigma towards health caregivers. Like one of the things is this stigma can come from people that are in other fields of health. Yeah, like for instance, maybe an example I would give is personally, when I chose to do mental health psychiatry, one of the questions I would get is, oh, okay, what are you doing? What are you specializing in? And then maybe I would mention to say psychiatry. And then they would say, oh, okay, so you chose to work with people that are mad and whatnot.
Yeah.
And then they're going to ask why. And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, why not? I mean, they are people just like us.
Yeah.
So it's basically not only people that we see picking from the trash and whatnot that are going through mental health issues. It's also people within the offices that are doing well, office jobs and whatnot. So basically, yeah, that's one of them. And then the other challenge we do face as well is also the emotional stress. Because, okay, I would give an example whereby you have a friend and they open up to you about what they're going through. And in a way, you get to have that, it affects you in a secondary way because you are fond of that person and you want them to be okay. So they open up to you about what they are going through. And it will be on your mind. Like it will also it will become in a way your problem because you want to solve it. So there's that stress when you hear what your only one friend is going through. So you can imagine you have 10 patients in that day, all of them coming in, telling you what they are going through. In a way, it becomes your problem because you are trying to solve their problem as well. So it also, in a way, drains you emotionally.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess the other thing as well is when it comes to treatment and management, because when we do have our patients, we want them to come with their family around and whatnot. So you get to find that, yes, the family is seeking you for treatment and whatnot, but in mind, they also have other kind of ideas about the patient's condition and that kind of a thing. So whereby you're trying to initiate treatment and continue with treatment, and you explain to the family what is wrong with the patient, but you get a bit of like whereby they might not really agree with you,
Yeah.
because maybe sometimes they think it's a spiritual problem.
So it's the issue of someone being dogmatic. They believe into something. So even if you tell them something, they still feel like you're just, lying to them because they already have this belief. Okay.
Exactly. So maybe they have their traditional beliefs, like, no, we suspect it's an uncle somewhere that doesn't want our patient to progress. Or maybe religious, whereby, oh, okay, we feel maybe the person might be possessed and that kind of a thing.
Demons are speaking here.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
So basically, you'd find that the family is there and you explain to them the condition of the patient, but you'd expect them to come for review after some time. But you'd find that maybe they might not come for review because the family might seem to agree with you there, but when they go home, they
Behind
might...
the curtains, they change this and that.
Exactly. They might stop treatment and decide to take the patient to a traditional healer, or maybe take them to church and that kind of a thing. So basically, you'd find that you're not really going anywhere with management and that kind of thing. So yeah, that's one of the challenges. You find the patient is coming back, is having a relapse, and then you have to start managing again. Yeah, that's also one of the things.
Okay. Earlier on, you mentioned that the time you chose to, be in this field, you'd get questions, people asking you why you are, specializing in that field. This leaves me wondering if we have enough, doctors specialized in this area.
No. And I think that's one of the other challenges I forgot to mention, that mental caregivers are having, is the work burnout, because not a lot of people decide to do mental health. Most of them would decide to do maybe other fields like internal medicine, just ophthalmology and that kind of thing. Few of them decide to do mental health. So we do have a bit of a challenge in that area as well, where we only have few people. So the healthcare to patient ratio is quite disproportional.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So I'm now wondering, like, how did we end up here? And asking myself why you chose this field, because it seems like you're this spacious species that we need to have in order for us to progress. A lot of people are shunning out from this field, but that's where you're going. Why?
Well, mental health has really become an important factor. Just like a lot of attention is being given to other fields, I feel a lot of attention as well needs to be given to mental health.
Okay.
Yeah, so I really want to raise awareness and that kind of a thing. So, yeah.
Okay. All right. If you are watching us here on LITOVIA Television, You can also be part of the conversation. You can send us maybe a message, or you can call us on the numbers that are showing on your screen, just to ask maybe some questions that you have. Of course, you can direct the questions either at me or the doctor. Yeah, I'm not qualified to answer some of the questions. This is why I have the doctor in place. Yeah, Doc, where are the most challenges, where are most of the challenges faced? Is it in urban areas or rural areas in terms of mental health?
Well, I don't think a specific study has been done on that one, but having spent time at a mental health facility, like the number of presentations we've had, I would say it's almost the same.
Okay.
Yeah, people coming from rural areas or urban areas, it's almost the same. Maybe it might seem that people coming from urban areas are more because people from rural areas haven't yet been educated a lot about mental health. So some of them are still, like in the rural areas, are still thinking maybe it's witchcraft, are still seeking attention from traditional healers and that kind of thing. But I feel the ratio is almost the same, only that others have not been diagnosed yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. In these societies we are from or we live in, there's always that person that is always saying, okay, for me, I go to church. Yeah, I believe in God. So there is no way I'm going to be battling with mental health. What is your word to those people?
Okay.
Them, they just believe if there is anything with, with mental health, then it should be some form of a demon, like you said earlier, or maybe I'm cursed. I don't know.
I don't know. I feel whether I would have something to say to them, if that's their mindset, there's nothing much I would really do because that's their belief and idea. Maybe the only thing I would tell them is when you feel you need to seek help, please seek help. And maybe also what can be influential is the people around them. So in that moment, if that's what they believe, there's little I would have to say to them, because it's the same, like even when we're managing patients, there's, like I mentioned again, there's what we call insight. So just like those people you're talking about, if they lack insight about their condition, there's really nothing you can do in that moment, like to convince them, but you can help them work towards seeking help. Yes. So you can tell them to say, like I said, when you're ready, you
seek help.
You seek help. Yeah.
Right.
So it's a process. You can't convince them just right there and then. It's a process.
All right. Seems like we have a caller here. Let's just pick this one call. Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you. All through to
My name is
television.
My name is Raphael. I'm calling from Slovakia.
Sure. Please go ahead with your
I'm
question.
watching the program regarding the mental health discussion.
All right. Go ahead with a question or contribution.
I have one question, and perhaps, I would call it a question. So, would you say, the question to your speaker. So, would you say mental health can be classified as something spiritual? Can it be spiritual?
All right. Thank you for that question. We'll let the doctor answer that question. All right. So.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you for calling. Doc is asking, say, can we classify mental health as something spiritual? What is your your take on that one?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily classify it as something spiritual, but I can say spiritual factors can lead to a mental health diagnosis. Okay. Yeah, so I wouldn't specifically say mental health itself is something spiritual, but the factors that lead to a diagnosis of mental health can be spiritual. Like you'd say, even like maybe even, how can I put it? Like
or maybe just help us to understand when you see factors that can lead to a mental health, diagnosis can be spiritual. What do you mean by that, and what could be those factors you're talking about?
Okay, like for instance, how well can I put it? Like, let's say, like I mentioned, when you are making a diagnosis of a mental health condition, you really have to take a proper history. Yeah. So basically, you would have to find out, are these spiritual beliefs, or is it because of a drug and that kind of thing? Like, you find out all the factors. Is it family history and all those things? Yeah. So like I mentioned, again, mental health, a condition, like, okay, let me say, when you're making a diagnosis of depression, so what we say when you're making a diagnosis of depression is that the signs and symptoms, like low mood, not wanting to do anything else, like suicidal thoughts, they should occur individually. They should not be related to drugs. They should not be related to any other medical condition and that kind of a thing. So a mental health condition is not based on other factors. It's a diagnosis made on its own. Okay. So other factors might contribute, and they might be signs and symptoms along the way out of the diagnosis that you've made, but otherwise it's individual. It's not related to spiritual beliefs and that kind of a thing. Okay. Yeah, so it's a diagnosis made on its own, and then other factors come in.
All right. With the question, from the caller, I'm prompted, or should I say, I'm intrigued to ask the question, say, to what extent does one's culture, pose as a challenge in enhancing mental health awareness?
Well, I feel how a person deals with adversity and stresses around them, in a way, has to do also with the culture that they're living in. So it can either be tradition or beliefs and that kind of a thing. So, for instance, like some cultures support restraint and being an individual when you're dealing with stuff, whilst other cultures support being interdependent or being a community and openness. So based on that, it would determine the prevalence and the diagnosis of a mental illness in a setup, in a community and that kind of thing. So it has been found that cultures that support being an individual or restraint, like dealing with things on your own, have shown a high prevalence of depression, because people are not able to open up. So, like, for example, like cultures and traditional beliefs, like, let's say, for instance, where they believe a man is supposed to be, is not supposed to be weak. Even when he's going through things, he's supposed to be strong and take up the load on his shoulder and that kind of a thing. We therefore find men being depressed because they cannot open up to the community about what they're going through because they are afraid of being deemed as weak. Yeah. So we find that such cultures, it is believed that women are supposed to hold a home. So like, let's say, for instance, a woman is going through gender-based violence and that kind of a thing, and she's told, no, you're supposed to stay in your home and hold it together. So because of that, women are unable to open up about what they're going through because they are afraid of being, seen as a failure to hold their home together. So because of all those cultural beliefs and whatnot, people are reluctant, again, to seek help. Like, let's say, from people in their community, they're afraid to seek help, and therefore they resort to things such as abusing alcohol or other drugs or just other things that are not healthy.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I like the last point. Of course, I like everything you said, but I like the last point because this is speaking to reality. And a lot of people say people that, abuse drugs are the ones that face mental health issues. From what you've said, of course, that is not true. That could be a result of someone, battling mental health, right? Yeah. All right. To you that is watching us, you can, of course, contribute, or you can ask that question that you have by simply texting or calling the number that is showing on your screens. We are talking challenges in enhancing mental health awareness. And of course, as always, I am your host, Blessings KN. And today, for us to understand this particular topic, I brought Dr. Anita Malambo from Chenama Hills Hospital to at least help us understand what mental health is and also the challenges that we are facing in as much as we'd like to enhance, mental health awareness. Doc, when it comes to mental health, there are a number of beliefs, a number of, I don't know if I can say myths. Yeah, if that's the term. And with the statistics that the Ministry of Health released recently, it indicates that we have a higher number of people battling mental health in higher learning institutions. Is it because there's lack of care in universities? Students there have too much freedom, so maybe, as some people say, they're abusing too much drugs. At the end of the day, they fail to, solve their issues in a proper way. Or it could be the pressure that comes with their studies. Yeah, those are things that, of course, we cannot just, comprehend and just give a straight answer to. But I would like to get your view. Why are we having a higher number of mental health cases from the higher learning institutions, from your perception?
Well, personally, I feel maybe it's trying to keep up with basically everything. So, if you'd say maybe like in universities and whatnot, so it's basically trying to keep up with how other people are living and that kind of a thing. So, and also trying to keep up with the impression that I'm okay and that kind of a thing. So basically, you have an individual and they have people around them. So basically, let's say if the people surrounding them, like their triggers, so like let's say it can be influence, whereby the people one is associated with might influence them to do certain things. And also, like, let's say if the individual is not okay with that, and initially they would not do that in normal circumstances, they are afraid of being labeled as boring or like old school and that kind of a thing. So basically they are trying to keep up with the environment around them.
Okay, so Doc, you're saying that it could be peer pressure, right? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I would have loved us to, extend the conversation, but in the interest of time, of course, this is where, well, we have to come to an end. But I'll be looking forward to hosting you again on this particular show so that we talk more about mental health.
Okay.
As you've said, the levels of awareness is not, something that you can be proud of. It's basically 20 to 30%, which is not a good number. So there is really more that needs to be done in order for us to to bring about awareness of mental health. Well, you have been watching Check In here on LITOVIA television, and I have been your host, Blessings KN. I was speaking to Dr. Anita Malambo from Chainama Hills Hospital, and we were discussing challenges in enhancing mental health awareness. I hope you've learned something, and of course, let us not stigmatize people that are battling mental health. Let us not also stigmatize the health professionals like doctors that are dealing with cases to do with mental health. I am checking out. Peace in the Middle East. See you next time.